I'll tell you this much, I'm not in a swing state, so it doesn't matter how I vote.
Look, I get it. I know how you feel because I grew up in a red state and I was told this all my life. It literally took me doing the math to start to unpack that narrative that red states and blue states exist, because they don't. Before we get too far into this, I actually have a playlist dedicated to this concept, and I break it down by state. I go over the math showing real world numbers. There is a small chance that I've already covered your state. I have not gotten to all of the states yet, but I have a fair amount of them. And if you have any questions and I have not covered that state, I will gladly go do the math for you so you can see and you can show your followers. But moving on, the term red states and blue states is actually very, very new. This terminology actually started in election 2000. While it's not the first election with red and blue maps, it is the first election to show across the United States how a state can be depicted as red from the get-go. Before election 2000, states were just states. There were states that would probably go a certain way, but they weren't classified as red states. They weren't classified as unwinnable by Democratic and Republican parties. And the attitude that voting doesn't count because you live in a red or blue state is actually one of the big reasons why we arrived here in the state of our current quality of politicians. For instance, this is the electoral map of 1992. Look at Louisiana, Arkansas, Tennessee, Georgia. These southern, very red states were actually blue in the 90s. And a large part of the reason that states were able to just flip left and right willy-nilly all the time is because people actually thought that their vote mattered back then. People would show up to the polls and their votes would matter. Can you imagine a state like Texas going blue right now? Well, I can, because I did a video about Texas, because I did the math about Texas. I literally show the math in the video of what percentage of voters in Texas who stayed home would have to come to the polls for Texas to flip blue. And spoiler alert, it wasn't much. Your vote matters, regardless of what state you live in. I know you've been fed the narrative your entire life, but the fact is that narrative is just propaganda. It's false. Your vote does matter.